IUIC thinks they descend from the Druids? Yeah, what's going on, party people in the place to be? I go by the name of the BK apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? Hope everybody's having a good day. Of course, we gotta say what's up to the party people in the chat. We got the indelible, the incomparable, the king of all mods, ladies and gentlemen, Nate 2D2. Nate, I don't know if they've told you this in some time, but we appreciate everything you do for so many Christian content creators. You know, you've been moderating for a long time for a whole bunch of channels, and I just want to say, brother, thank you so much for your service. It's greatly appreciated. Right? I just want to just publicly say that. You know, we got Dana Owens, bodega ladies in the building, you know. And we got the real American, Mr. Phil Fox on the check-in. What's going on, sir? Good to see you. And as always, if you have yet to do so, please share the link. Tell a friend to tell a friend that it's him again. Like, share, and subscribe. We're edging closer and closer to the 5K mark. And, you know, it can only happen if my street team, which is you guys, yes, you are the street team. You've been voluntold. You are my street team now. I need you to go out there and plug away at your, you know, specific quadrants of Al Gore's internet to let people know BK's here. He's defending the gospel, and hopefully you're having a good time hearing and watching him do that. And if you enjoy what he does, you can show your appreciation via PayPal. The link is pinned on top of the chat. Or if you'd like to be a monthly supporter of BK, you can become a Patreon. We get an assortment of goodies to enhance your personal Bible study. All right, so we got Lauren in the building. So yeah, so tonight, you know, we're not gonna put this on all the brews, right? Because I don't know of any other Hebrew organization that has made this claim. But I ran into this video by IUIC, and the gentleman here is trying to prove that Hebrews come from the Druids. Now, not that they originated with the Druids, but, you know, throughout time, you know, Hebrews, you know, they scatter across the world and, you know, morphed into different other, I guess, identities. And Druids, according to him, is one such identity that they morphed into for a time. Right? So he wants to use the Druids as proof of, you know, the Hebrews just being around for the most part, right? So let's look at the video and let's see what he has to say, and then we will commence on some commentary. All right, so.
Particular book you're referring to, but all praises, yes sir, yes sir. Let's give me that. This next AI thing I looked up now. This is ChatGPT, one of the AIs I use from time to time. Not always reliable, but you gotta backtrack it. So I was looking into the Druids. I have books on Druids. I'm gonna use it in the Lord's will today. I'm gonna use it. And the Druids. Remember I showed you guys earlier how the Druids were the high priests of the Britons. They went to them for counsel. They did sacrifices. They were advisors of the law. They passed it on to their children. They had to go by memory. Remember that? That was like weeks ago. I went over that. If you guys remember, go back maybe 2 parts and watch it where I go into the Druids and how they didn't put things in writing. It was all up here. And they were like the priests of the people. They were the high priests that handle controversies among the people. And there was a particular, y'all have it? Oh, and there was a particular, so you guys are on point today, but there was a particular details regarding the Druids and how their interactions with the people in their time correlate with the Levites, as I was alluding to. So let's read that. Watch this.
Druid hypocrisy from ChatGPT.
So the reason why I titled it hypocrisy is because in 1 minute it told me no, there's no similarities. That's just folklore. That's British Israelism. Don't believe it's to try to tell me, like, if you don't ask the right questions, you ain't getting the right answers. So I had to dig and ask the right questions. Then it was like, oh yeah, there is. That's all. You see that? That's why you can't really rely on AI like that, because if you ask the wrong question, you'll get the wrong answer. If you don't ask a detailed question with certain sources and then put it into the AI, it's not going to find anything you want.
So you got to challenge the AI.
You got to challenge the AI, right? Because Esau controls it. So if you don't ask, if you're not esoteric, if you don't have an understanding, a deep understanding of history, it's going back, I don't know what you're talking about. But then if you ask, oh yeah, I know, it does what Esau does. If you don't know, I don't know. If you know, okay, I'll tell you. Read that, watch this.
Druid hypocrisy from ChatGPT. The claim that Druids refer to themselves as the people of Jehovah come from the book, The Bible in Britain, 1869, by Reverend George W. Barber. In this book, Barber suggests that the ancient Druids were monotheistic and worshipped a singular deity, which he controversially equates with Jehovah, the God of the Bible.
Go ahead.
Barber's theory aligns with 19th century attempts to link Celtic traditions with biblical history.
Right. They're trying to say it goes back to British Israelism, where you have white folks that that the white European nations are the other Israelites, and the so-called Israelis today are Edomites, are Amalek. That's what they say. So British Israelism arose around, I believe, the middle 1900s, I believe. This book was around the 1800s, so I think it predates that movement. So a lot of times when I was looking for some form of correlation between the Britons or the Israelites, it's like, oh, that's British Israelism. So when I asked the right question, it's like, oh yeah, there is some correlation based upon this source, that source. That's why I showed you that book in around Swansea, which is old. It says that the Gwir goes back to Hebrews, which is Britons, which are Silurians, which are the Phoenicians. I had to go take you guys around the world, because when I asked Chat, it was like, no, but the books that have say yes. So I'm going to show you the hypocrisy. Watch this. Read on.
Barber's theory aligns with 19th century attempts to link Celtic traditions with biblical history.
Remember, the Celts go back to the Phoenicians. Go ahead.
But it lacked historical evidence.
See, but it lacks historical evidence. Go ahead.
And is not supported by mainstream historians or archaeologists.
Watch.
Most scholars agree that the Druids were part of a polytheistic Celtic religion.
Now, the Druids were in paganism, but they had elements of Judaism, because Israel is stupid. We would go into the follow the Lord and follow the devil at the same damn time and merge them together. That's what Northern Kingdom would do. But read on. Judah too. Read on.
And did not use the name Jehovah, which is derived from a Latinized version of the Hebrew
Tetragrammaton.
Yahweh. Would you like more details on this or other Druid beliefs?
Right. So I put the question: Levites and Druids similar? I had to ask that question. Watch.
Yes, there are some intriguing parallels between the
You see what's happening? So I asked the question: Levites and Druids are similar? And it said earlier, there's no evidence supporting that those two are the same. Then I asked this question: Levites and Druids similar? It goes, yes, there are similarities. But you just said earlier, in the few paragraphs above, it wasn't. Read, watch. I'm going to show you. Watch.
Yes, there are some intriguing parallels between
All right. So there's some things to unpack here. Right? So one of the first things that he says is that they don't have any writings. Right? The Druids don't have any writings. We're going to get back to that, because that's a big point that he makes. And he goes on about basically having to crack the code of ChatGPT to kind of trick it to tell us the truth. And what he means by the truth is that somehow the Levites have a connection with the Druids. And he says, yeah, I asked them if they were the same. They said, nah. But then when I asked them if they were similar, they said, yeah. You see? I'm like, yeah, you didn't trick ChatGPT. You asked actually two different questions. So because he thinks that the words same and similar are equal definitions. Because he thought he tricked it. Like, well, I asked same, but then I asked the other thing. Oh, they told me that it does have. I'm like, yeah, but similarity is not the same as the word same. And it's very sad that we're gonna have to do this. But I mean, it's kind of rudimentary, but right, the word same, right, in Merriam-Webster, resembling in every relevant respect, conforming in every respect, used with, as such or whatever. A being one without addiction, change, or discontinuance, corresponding so closely as to be indistinguishable. Right? That's what same is. Similar is having characteristics in common, comparable, corresponding, alike. Okay? Same, resembling in every relevant respect. Similar, having characteristics in common. There's a difference between these two words. And it's sad that we have to, so when we talk about, there just seems to be a lack of just not only reading comprehension, but understanding the definition of words. Because he made it seem as if he cracked the code, like he was slick and asked this other question, which made ChatGPT give up the goods. I'm like, no, bro, you asked two different questions. You thought you said something, slick, and then you got your information. Like, no, the word same does not have the same definition as the word similar. And then he goes on, right? Because ChatGPT shows some sort of similarity between these Druids and the Levites. But here's the thing. There's going to be a lot of similarities with different priesthoods throughout history. There's going to be some. So to play his game, I went to ChatGPT and I asked this: are Shinto priests similar to Levites? And it said Shinto priests and Levites have superficial similarities, but are fundamentally different in theology, function, and historical origin. Actually, before I do that, if I keep going into that, this is a screenshot of his screen. ChatGPT tells him, yes, there are some intriguing parallels between the Druids and the ancient Celtic world and the Levitical priesthood of ancient Israel, though they existed in different cultural and religious contexts. So they're not the same. There's going to be some similarities, just like the Shinto priests, right? The similarities is in ritual function. Both perform rituals and act as mediators. They both oversee ceremonial purity. Levites serve in the temple. The Shinto priests also serve in a shrine, which is the equivalent of a temple. Then I asked ChatGPT, are voodoo priests similar to Levites? Voodoo priests and Levites serve religious functions in their respective traditions, but are not directly similar in origin, structure, or function. Here's a comparison to highlight the key differences and some surface level similarities. Right? The religious roles. Both the voodoo priests and Levites are religious functionaries who lead rituals and maintain spiritual order. The Levites assist the priests in temple worship, Voodoo priests perform ceremonials, invoke spirits, and conduct healing and protection rituals. Both require specialized training or initiation into secret knowledge passed down through generations. I could do that with all the priesthoods throughout the world, throughout history. Does that mean that the Hebrews were also voodoo priests, according to his logic, right? And that the Hebrews were also Shinto priests somehow too, right? So, but now, I mean, not only is this problematic, he says he has these different books, and there's definitely been a lot of literature about, people trying to make a connection between particular people groups and the Druids. There's a problem with that, though. And it's not just a problem with IUIC. Anybody who tries to make some sort of direct connection with the Druids are going to run into some serious obstacles. So what am I talking about? Well, this is a book entitled Blood and Mistletoe, The History of the Druids in Britain by Ronald Hutton. And this is what he has to say. To focus on this relationship, rather than on ancient figures themselves, as most books concerned with Druids have been wont to do, is not to deny the potential worth of a quest for the Druidity of prehistory. It is certainly not to suggest that archaeology does not have very important things to tell us about the European Iron Age. As about every other period, it may well be, in addition, that at any point, excavation would turn up evidence of decisive value for our knowledge of the, quote, original Druids. This book does suggest, however, that so far such evidence has not, at least in any general agreement, been forthcoming, and that it is likely that any relevant artifacts uncovered by future archaeology will be the subject of considerable controversy before commanding any better acceptance. The Druids may well have been the most prominent magical religious specialists of some of the peoples of northwestern Europe just over a couple of thousand years ago. And that is all we can say of them with reasonable certainty. Watch this. They left no accounts of their beliefs and practices. And so our impressions of them depend ultimately on images produced in other cultures or later periods. These images are the foundation of all that follow in this book, the basic material from which later concepts of Druidry were constructed. They are vivid and compelling, which is why their effect has been so enduring. They are also, without exception, problematic, controversial, and possibly fallacious, and there's no way out of the problems that they present to a historian. Now, the IUIC gentleman, he actually said it too. They don't have any writings. There's no accounts for their beliefs or practices, right? Which hasn't stopped hundreds of people writing thousands of books about the Druids. But these things were produced in other cultures or at later periods. So all these books that we see about the Druids, it's speculative in nature. We don't know for certain what they believed at all. This is from a website called History for Atheists. Speaking about the connection that people have with Halloween with the Druids and how that you can't do it because there is no information. All right, partially thanks to Keating, the association of the supposed rituals of the, quote, the Druids as the origin of various traditional practices in ancient sites became a mainstay of antiquarian speculation from the 17th to the early 19th century. If you remember in the video, he talked about he has these books from the early 19th century. Yeah, there's tons of books of antiquarian speculation, right? To speculate. We think it could be this way. Or perhaps, we think now that it could have been that way. But there's nothing There's no data that can be used as a concrete, well, this is what they believe. They don't have anything. We don't have any written materials. We don't have any steles, carvings, nothing. Everything that you have heard about the Druids have come from the speculative milieu of literature from the 18 and 1900s. We don't know anything. So he can't make a connection with the Levites to the Druids because no one can make a connection to the Druids. Why? Because we don't have any data about the Druids. We don't have any written documents from these actual people. Nothing. And everything that we have that's been written in the 18th and 19th century has been nothing more than speculative endeavors. That's so, and yes, ChatGPT definitely has its benefits, but that is not, it does not make for a robust research methodology. There's a lot of issues with ChatGPT in that sense. Now, it can help you, maybe look for certain books and stuff like that. But to be, I hate to say it, to be this lazy and just do, because now your AI is embedded in your search engine. And your search engine is built to keep you within the website, the web browser. So what it does is that it puts you in your own personal echo chamber. So if you're more conservative, you're going to find your Google searches will be custom made that the first entries in your Google search will be leaning towards your predispositions. If you're more liberal, it'll give you more liberal answers. If you're conservative, it'll give you, because again, the goal is to keep you there so that you can look at all the advertisements and stuff like that. That's why they do that. So, but it's not a robust research methodology. Because when you actually talk to people who actually do look at the history of certain people groups, the Druids in particular, we know that there is no connection. Not just with the Brews, with anybody. You see a lot of the neo-pagans, right? They'll say, yeah, Halloween, ancient, pagan. It's not ancient. And it's not from the Druids either. So he's trying to make this connection, not an analogous connection, but mind you, cultural and ancestral connection, that these Druids come from the tribe of Levi. But you can't make that connection because there's no data. There's very little data for you to make that or any other connection with another people group. We just don't have it. And all the books that he says that he's, has read about this subject have all been speculative in nature. All of them. Because nobody knows. Nobody knows about the Druids. We know of the Druids, but we don't know how they, like, did they get married like everybody else? Was there any special ritual for the coming of age of a man? The religious obligation. There's just so much, and again, they don't properly research. They have problem with word definitions. He doesn't get same and similar. He doesn't understand how those words are supposed to work. So But to Lauren's point, I mean, it's either you are a liar and being deceptive, or you're grossly incompetent. Either way, you shouldn't be here talking and teaching, right? The Bible says that not everyone should think themselves to be teachers because you will be judged more harshly. So you're here teaching. You got the whole setup. You got your garments on. You going in. You got the guys in the back giving you your screenshots that you need. If it was a whole production, you was teaching. You shouldn't. If this is what you're getting out of, like the Druids, like, I mean, what? Let's do right. Let's play devil's advocate. Let's say there's a direct connection between the Hebrew Israelites and the Druids. Now what? Now what? So, but that's it, guys. That's all I wanted to share. Yeah, I mean, so this is dear BHI. We can't teach you and educate you at the same time. Love the Iuic. Thank you very much, SC. Definitely appreciate that. But again, they're using the same apparatus, the same eisegetical apparatus. And they look through the whole world through the same lens. It's bad and it's sad. You don't know the difference between same and similar. Your research is of AI, which you thought you can somehow crack the code and get the real information. But the issue is there is no information. There's only speculation when it comes to Druids. You guys cannot prove it. But don't feel bad. No one can make any kind of connection to the Druids, really. Because again, they didn't write anything down. We have nothing. So, but yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. And I mean, it's bad. It's really bad. It's really bad. And our prayers for them to come out of there and get the gospel so that they can, repent and be full of God's spirit and have the ability to discern. Because time and time again, we've seen how these guys will take things out of context or use sources that are just, untrustworthy. So, but with that being said, guys, this is BK signing off. Peace.